Hey guys, so as you can see from the title of today's video, I don't have a Sunday haul for you this week because I literally got nothing in at all, no PR, and I didn't do any shopping. So it's a nice little break and a chance to catch up on what I thought of some of the products I tried in previous Sunday hauls back from March and April. I've done two of these videos already. I did one in February ranking January's products, and then I did one in March ranking February's, and I meant to do one every single month, but as it turns out, March and April were just super crazy and so many things were coming in every week. I didn't want to take a Sunday off to do it. So we finally have a little bit of a breather, but we're going to have 2 months worth of stuff to go over. And even though May is almost over, I'm not going to talk about anything that I tried in May because I just haven't had quite enough time to really find out what I think of those products yet. So you'll see that video sometime in June. So why don't we go ahead and jump in and get started. Okay, so first up, let's talk about primers. I tried 3 primers during the months of March and April, and let's start with the bottom, and that would be the Believe Beauty Radiantly Primed Primer. So this is just one of those primers you're supposed to either layer down underneath your foundation or mix it with your foundation to give your skin a little bit of a glow. This one has sort of like a golden tint to it. It's actually really pretty, and I don't hate this primer by any means, but I just felt like it wasn't glowy enough for me. It really didn't do a whole lot. Like, I didn't see it through my foundation at all. It almost just felt like adding another layer of moisturizer under my foundation. It also doesn't have any pore smoothing or wrinkle filling properties. So for me, this one was just okay. And then coming in at number 2, we have the VDL Lumi Layer Primer. So this one actually came in a set with a whole bunch of other primers, and you might remember in my Sunday haul, I was having the worst time getting these out of the bottles, especially the other ones, which are a little bit thicker in consistency. This one actually will pour out because it's a little thinner, and it has basically the same idea as this one does, except this one actually shows up a lot better. You can really see the glow coming through, and to be honest with you, I'm not quite sure if this is worth the money because it reminds me so much of the L'Oreal Magic Lumi primer. If you remember that one from years and years ago, I think they still sell that one, but this one is super similar. So for me, I don't know if I would necessarily run out and buy the full size because I already have Magic Lumi and it's like almost identical to me. And by the way, the reason I'm not talking about the other ones that came in this set is just because I haven't used them at all. I've really only used this one. Those are just such a pain in the neck to get out of the bottles. I may revisit them at some point, but for now, I'm only talking about things that I got a chance to really test out. So this one's sitting at number 2, and then number 1 is Tatcha's Liquid Silk Canvas Primer. So this primer is actually beautiful. It's very expensive, but I have been enjoying it so much. I'm wearing it today, and I think like my L'Oreal Studio Secrets one a little bit better when it comes to pore smoothing and wrinkle filling because that one is thicker. It's almost like a spackle, but I think for the summer months, this one's going to be really great because it doesn't feel as heavy on my face as the L'Oreal one does. It has almost like a powdery finish to it, but when I put this on, even before I put foundation on, my skin almost takes on this sort of airbrushed, really soft quality. It just looks so beautiful and it feels so smooth, and it really does do a good job at filling pores and wrinkles. Again, not quite as good as the L'Oreal one or like the Tarte Timeless Smoothing Primer. Anything that's really thick like that is definitely going to smooth things out really well. But this one comes pretty close, and it's a really nice lightweight option. All right, so then moving on to foundations, I also tried 3 of those during the months of March and April, and the first one at the bottom of the list is the VDL foundation. So I actually don't have that one with me. I already decluttered it because it was awful, at least for me. You might remember at the end of my Sunday haul, I talked about how I just did not like the way it sat on my skin, and I tried it several more times and just couldn't get it to work. It looked so dry on my skin, no matter what type of primer I layered it on top of, and it's unfortunate because the reviews are so good. So I feel like I'm probably in the minority when it comes to that, and you guys might have a totally different experience with it, but just on my dry, more mature skin, it was terrible. It sank into fine lines and wrinkles. It looked like so cakey and heavy, and it just clung to every dry patch that is on my face. So yeah, I just had to get rid of that one. And then coming in at number 2, we have the Beauty Pie Everyday Great Skin Foundation. So this one is not not the greatest foundation for me. I think if you have a different skin type, again, you might get along with it a little bit better. It's a really thin, nice, lightweight foundation on the positive side, and it has a beautiful satin finish. It's not too glowy and it's not too matte, which I really, really love. The downside for me is that it just made my skin look really dry, and when I looked at the ingredient list, I saw that it contains alcohol, so I don't know if that's part of what's doing it for me, but it just looked a little bit too dry, and now we're heading into summer and it still looked dry on me. So that's how I pretty much know that it's never gonna work, because at this point in the year, my skin is probably the least dry it's ever gonna be. So unfortunately, this didn't work out for me, but I think if you have a skin type that isn't quite as dry, you might get along with this one great. And then my number one is still not something that I'm totally in love with, but if I'm just ranking the three that I tried, this one would be in the number one spot. It's the Honest Beauty Luminous Finish Tinted Moisturizer. It has SPF 30, and this is the shade Fair, and as you'll see when I do a little swatch here, there's actually nothing fair about this. It's almost like too deep for my skin tone, so I was really shocked when I first put this on at how dark this is for a fair shade. Other than that though, I actually really like the coverage of this. Even though it's a tinted moisturizer and not a CC cream, it reminds me a little bit more of like an IT Cosmetics CC cream. It has really, really good coverage. So if you're looking for high coverage in a tinted moisturizer, this will definitely fit the bill. It is a little bit thick though, which I would say is probably my only complaint when I'm heading into the summertime and it's humid out. I normally don't like to wear something quite as thick as this. And also I found that the thickness made it difficult to spread across my face. And I think the best way to use it is probably to sheer it out with a damp beauty sponge, because when I tried to use my fingers or a brush, I just felt like I was applying way too much of this, and it started to kind of sit heavy on my skin, similar to what IT Cosmetics does. So I feel like this is okay. It's my favorite of the bunch, but I don't really see myself reaching for this one all that often. All right, so next up, let's talk bronzers. I actually only tried 2 bronzers during the months of March and April. So at the bottom of the list, I would say are these Kokie matte bronzers. Again, I don't think these are terrible, and I think that the formula is really nice on them. They're very blendable, they're really soft, so I like that about it. I think my issue is with the color selection. So they're just very like warm and orangey, and on my skin tone, that really doesn't work so well. There is one called Sunlit Peach that's a little bit more on the peachy side, but again, I really like more of a pink tone bronzer, something that's leaning maybe a little bit cooler, because I have that pink undertone in my skin and my skin tends to turn pink in the sun. So something with an orange undertone like this just sort of clashes with my skin, I feel like. So for me, these really weren't the best. My favorite is definitely the Tarte Breezy Cream Bronzer. So this one is so beautiful, and actually when I first saw it in the pan, I thought this was gonna be a little bit too warm for me as well, but surprisingly it's not. It works out so well. It's almost more neutral. I wouldn't say that this one leans necessarily pink or too orange. It's really right in the middle. I also love the formula of this. It's not sticky. It dries down completely, which is something I always look for in a cream product. I hate that like kind of tacky feeling where it's sitting on your skin. This blends in so effortlessly, and it is completely weightless, so you don't feel it once it's on your skin. It also has a good amount of pigment to it. And for me, that's sometimes what makes a cream product start to feel sticky, is if I have to apply too much. So this, just the thinnest layer is all you need, and I think it just dries down to a beautiful finish. I love the color. I think it's great. All right, so the next up we have blush, and again, none of these were totally terrible or anything, even the ones at the bottom of the list. So let's start there with this one from Beauty Pie. This is the Peachy Dreams Smart Powder Blush. So it's not a bad blush, it's just not something that I feel like was exciting for me, but you know, it's not a bad blush. It feels really silky and really soft. It blends beautifully on my cheeks. I mean, honestly, I don't even know why it's at the bottom of my list. I think it's just because the other things I'm gonna show you were just like a little bit more exciting to me, and this one was just kind of like, meh, like it's a nice blush. That's basically all I could say about it. The next one up would be the Benefit Cheek Stars Reunion Tour. So this one, it's expensive for a blush palette. It's $65, but at the same time, you are getting 5 of their, I believe these are full size powders, the ones that normally come in those little boxes. And I like the format of a palette a little better because I hate storing those boxes. They're kind of thick and chunky and a pain in the neck to store. So I really like the format of this one. And you get 3 blushes, you get the Hoola bronzer, and then you get the Cookie highlighter, which is really beautiful. It's a little bit too much of an intense highlight for me, so I feel like that one is kind of wasted in this palette as far as I'm concerned. But the rest of them are, you know, they're pretty, they're nice, but the reason it's so low on the list for me is because a few of these shades, Georgia and Dallas specifically, they reformulated these and they changed the color as well. So Georgia has a lot of shimmer to it now, and it's a little bit softer of a color, so I almost feel like it doesn't show up as well as the original Georgia for me. And I don't know why they changed it, because I really loved the original. And Dallas used to be, I feel like, more of a pink toned color, and now it just looks like almost a light bronzer. So I don't know why they messed with the color of this one either, but it kind of was a bummer for me. Sugar Bomb is really beautiful. I love this color a lot. I also really enjoy the Hoola bronzer. I think it's like the perfect neutral bronzer. It's not too cool or too warm. So this palette was just okay. I was mainly interested in trying the newly reformulated shades. So I was kind of hoping that I would love these even more than the originals, and that didn't really happen. But at the same time, if you like Benefit's face powders, I do think this one is a really good deal instead of buying them individually. And then coming in at number 5 is this IBY Cheek to Cheek palette. So this one, I love the way it opens. It kind of opens like that. And these colors are so stunning. I really enjoy this palette a lot. Again, it was kind of hard at this point forward to rank anything because I pretty much like it all. So these colors are really beautiful. I would say the only thing is be careful with them because they are super pigmented and they're very powdery. So your brush picks up a ton of it and you really have to be careful not to go overboard with your cheeks. But I do really love the formula. I think it blends really nicely. And I would definitely pick up another shade of this because I really enjoy it a lot. And then coming in at number 4 is the Doll 10 Complexion Enhancing Palette. So this palette is really, I feel like, very versatile and useful, especially if you go on travel a lot. You have a lot of really nice face powders in here, including a banana powder. You have some highlighters in the top. You have a light bronzer and then a deep bronzer. You have a beautiful grayish contour shade and then 2 blushes, one cool toned and one a little bit warmer. And the formula of these is so super silky and smooth. It's one of the silkiest formulas I've ever tried in a blush. I think they have almost zero fallout to them, and they just feel like silk and they just glide across your skin. I feel like they'd be great for somebody who has more texture that doesn't want to accentuate it. They don't leave like that powdery look on your skin, so they just are just so smooth and seamless and blend right in. So I really have been enjoying this palette as well. All right, so then coming in at number 3, we have the Natasha Denona Mini Bloom Highlighting Blush. So this one, when you first see it in the pan, it looks kind of crazy and intense. I'm actually wearing it on my cheeks today, and I think it's a beautiful color. And don't be afraid of it if you are more fair, because even though it looks dark in the pan, it's not one of those super powdery blushes that you pick up a ton of when you dip your brush in. Actually, you pick up very little of it. So I feel like it's an easy one to build up to your desired intensity. If you don't like a shimmery blush, though, you're not going to like this one. It does have a good amount of sheen to it. I don't know if you can see any glow like bouncing off from any of my lights, but you know, it has a fair amount of glow to it, so just fair warning. And while I usually reach for more matte or satin formulas, I do wear this every once in a while, and I feel like it's fun because then I don't have to wear highlighter. I just have that nice glowy look without having to add even more powder on my cheeks. It's kind of like a one and done thing. So really enjoy this one as well. Sitting at number 2, we have the Persona Super Blushes. These are so beautiful. They come in 2 shades right now. We have Georgia, which is more of a peachy shade. It's so super beautiful. And these have more of a satiny finish. So a little like tiny hint of glow. They're not completely flat matte. And then we have Carmel, which is the most gorgeous mauve or mauve shade. It's absolutely so stunning. So I've been loving these. I love the formula. Everything Persona comes out with is always so good. Like, I've pretty much loved everything that they've come out with, and these are no exception. So definitely these are awesome. But coming in at number 1 would have to be the Sydney Grace blushes. So I have a bunch of singles in a magnetic palette right now. That's why it doesn't have like an outer case, but these are so beautiful. I have 4 shades. I definitely want to pick up some more. They are so stunning. They have a really rich velvety formula, very similar to their matte eyeshadows, and it's pigmented, but they also blend really nicely. So you don't have to worry about clown cheeks going on. And they are really pigmented. They're also a softer formula. So I would recommend going in lightly with these at first and then build them up. But I have no trouble blending them. They blend like a dream. They look so beautiful. They have, the shades that I got have a matte finish, but I think they might also have some glowy ones that I might want to check out. So definitely my number one blushes these days. I just love the shades that I got as well. I think they're gorgeous. All right, so next up, I have 3 different lip products that I tried out during the months of March and April. I don't know why it feels like more than that, but anyway, all 3 of these I really, really love, so it was super hard to even rank them. I mean, I think you can't go wrong with any of them. So the first one is the Marc Jacobs Enamored Lip Gloss Stick. So it looks like a regular lip gloss tube right here, but then when you open it up, it's actually in a stick form. So it kind of looks like one of those tinted lip balms. It has like the flat top, and it's just a really beautiful formula. Actually, one of you guys had recommended this to me, and this is in the shade Mocha Chocolata. It's like a really beautiful kind of pinky nude. It's gorgeous. It's just one of those ones that you can just put on without a mirror even, because you can't mess it up, and it's just a great everyday lip shade. So I really love this. It feels like a moisturizing lip balm on your lips as well. And then coming in at number 2 is actually a very similar product to the Marc Jacobs, but it's a little more affordable, and that's the Beauty Pie Future Lipstick Luxe, and that's in the shade Dusky Rose. So this one's a little bit of a deeper shade than the Marc Jacobs one, but it looks very similar in the tube. It has kind of the flat slanted, not applicator, but you know what I mean. And it also is kind of like a lip gloss in a stick. It's really super hydrating. It has a little bit of shine going on. It feels almost identical when I put this on my lips. So this is a great product if you like a moisturizing lipstick. It's kind of like a cross between a lipstick and a gloss, I would say, because it does give you a lot of shine, but it's also like creamy like a lipstick, and it's not sticky feeling like a gloss. So I really, really enjoy this a lot too, and I definitely want to pick up more shades. And coming in at number 1, I would say, are the Sydney Grace lip creams. So these are absolutely phenomenal. Again, if you like a gloss, but you don't really like the stickiness that glosses have, or if you want a little bit more pigment than a gloss would normally give you, these are a great cross between a liquid lipstick and a gloss. They're fantastic. They also are so long lasting on your lips because I find that they leave a little bit of a stain behind. So today I'm wearing the shade Beverly. I applied it almost 2 hours ago now, and I've had a few drinks in between, like sips of water and things like that. And the shine does wear away after a little while, but it just leaves a really beautiful stain behind. It feels super comfortable. So I think these are like the perfect mix between a lip gloss and a lipstick, and I really just have been enjoying them so much. The colors are gorgeous too. I have 4 different ones, so I'll put some swatches up on the screen so you can see what they look like. I just feel like you can't go wrong with these. They're also 10 bucks each, so they're really affordable as well. They're kind of in line with like drugstore pricing. So definitely check those out if you like that type of lipstick. Okay, so next up we have mascara. I tried 3 different formulas during the months of March and April, and to be honest with you, I love them all. I think they're all amazing, and it was pretty much impossible to rank them, so I'm just gonna go in a random order with these because they're all amazing. The first one is the Charlotte Tilbury Legendary Lashes Volume 2. So this one I actually got a little sample of with a Sephora order, and I loved it so much I ended up buying the full size, which is something I normally don't do because I normally use drugstore mascara. I think there's so many great ones out there, but there was just something about this that made my lashes a little bit like extra big and full. So I just love this formula so much, and I definitely think it's worth the hype. The reviews are kind of mixed on it. Some people really loved it, some people not so much, but I just love like that really false lash look that this gives me. It's a little bit more of, I would say, like a wetter formula, so you do have to be careful about clumps, but I just find that the wetter formulas tend to give me the biggest lashes. So this has definitely been one of my go-tos lately. The next one would be the Shiseido Controlled Chaos Mascara Ink. So this one is still a little sample that I have. I got it at Sephora with, I think it was like one of those little codes that you put in the box, and you can get a free product. And I love this one just as much as the Charlotte Tilbury. This one actually isn't quite as wet of a formula, so I found that this one doesn't clump as easily, but it still gives me huge lashes, which I love. It also lasts all day. It doesn't smudge on me at all. So I really enjoy this one. I found that this one also had really mixed reviews. Some people loved it and some people hated it. I'm definitely one of those people that loves it. I think it's great. And coming in at number 1 is the one that I'm wearing today, and this one's from Beauty Pie, and this one also also very mixed reviews. And I wanted to find a mascara from Beauty Pie to try because they have a few different options, and this one had the best reviews, and I think it was like maybe 4 stars out of 5. None of them had 5 out of 5. So there were still some people who were rating this pretty poorly, and then other people who absolutely loved it. And again, I am definitely somebody who loves this. This is something I would absolutely repurchase over and over again. And I think this one is cool too because of the wand. It has this teeny tiny little stubby wand. And when I saw this, I was like, I don't know how I feel about that because I feel like brush makes a really big difference when it comes to mascaras. And this one, it just has like these teensy tiny little spikes on it. I'm thinking, how is it gonna comb through my lashes? But once I tried this out, I realized I like it even better than normal mascara wands because it's so tiny. I can get right in, like I can get every single lash, like the ones way in the corner, the ones way on the outside corner without having to worry about it getting everywhere, all over my lids. So that's one reason I love this. It's because it gives me so much control. And the other reason is just because of how huge it makes my lashes. It gives so much length, so much volume. Again, it is a wetter formula, so you do have to be careful of clumps. I feel like it might get ultra clumpy once it starts to dry out, so we'll see. But I have been using this now for a few weeks and it's still working just great. So I really love this and will definitely repurchase. Okay, so last but not least, we have eyeshadow palettes. I decided to save those for last just because it's a huge category. I have a whole bunch of them to share with you. So let's start at the bottom of the list, and I would say that would probably be these Profusion minis, these monochromatic ones. Not that the formula is bad. I don't feel like it's terrible by any means. They're really affordable. They're only $5. I think for me, it's just that I don't really reach for monochromatic palettes all that much. So for me, it was just kind of like these weren't super exciting, I guess, to me. I don't see myself using them on a regular basis. So that's why they're at the bottom of the list. But if you like monochromatic palettes, I think these are a really cute, affordable option. All right, so then the next one up on the list would be these Milani Salt and Pepper palettes. So they're not terrible by any means, but they are using that new formula that I'm not super into, especially with the mattes. They're like the ultra blendable ones that just kind of blend away on your eyes. And I just find that I have to keep layering them up to get them to show up. I think the shimmer shades in these are beautiful though. And the other thing that I'm not super crazy about are the color stories, just because I feel like I have color stories like this already. This one reminds me so much of the Misunderstood palette from ColourPop. It's like almost an exact dupe for it. So I feel like I kind of already have this color story. And then same thing with this one. It's very similar to like ColourPop Yes Please or the Natasha Denona Sunset palette. There's just a whole bunch in my collection that have that very similar warm tone vibe. So for me, it was more about just like that they didn't excite me all that much because I feel like these color stories have been done before. And then the next one up would be the Beauty Pie One Palette Wonder. So again, nothing wrong with the formula of this one. I think it's actually really nice and blendable. It doesn't have a lot of fallout to it, which is nice. But I don't like how small the blush pans are. I mean, I like that it's compact and travel friendly. And I think in a pinch, you could definitely make it work, especially if you're using a smaller blush brush, but you do have to be careful not to get into the other powders. And then you really have like these 3 eyeshadows to work with. So it's kind of limited in the amount of looks you can get with it. And I feel like with this, pretty much the only time I would ever use it is if I took it on travel with me somewhere. I don't see myself really using it that much from home. So that's why it's kind of a little bit lower on the list, but I do think the formula is good. And then the next one up is the IBY Poolside palette. So this one has nothing to do with formula. I think the formula is actually fantastic on this palette, and I definitely want to try more from this brand. But for me, the color story is what's kind of pushing this one a little bit lower on the list, because I did use this one several times, and every time I used it, I kind of felt like I was running out of options because a lot of the colors start to look a little the same on my eyes. Like these pinks, there's kind of 3 of them that look really close to each other, and then you have the purple and this really deep teal green. But I also felt like this shade right here was the only one that's like a transition color, and then the rest were either like too dark to use for me as a transition or too light up here. So I mean, it just kind of felt a little bit limited. I did get a few really pretty looks with it, but I definitely have to be in the mood to wear like the pinks and purples to use this palette. All All right, so then coming in at number 6, we have the Sigma Cor de Rosa palette. So this one is a beautiful palette. I think the formula is great on it as well. But if you saw my video where I duped this palette, again, for me, this isn't about formula as much as it is about just being a little bit bored with this color story. And, you know, when I first purchased it, I guess I wasn't really thinking about it, because when palettes are packaged in like different packaging and the colors are arranged in a different order, sometimes you don't realize until you get home how much it actually looks like so many other things that you already have. So for me, I think it's just a little bit of like being bored with this color story. But that being said, I do enjoy the formula. I think it applied really well. I got some pretty looks out of it. And then at number 5, we have the Artist Couture Supreme Nudes palette. So again, everything from here on, I would say I really enjoyed a lot, and I really don't have any complaints about it at all. I think the formula on this one is really good. It actually reminds me a little bit of the Master Palette by Mario color story. It's very close to that one. I really love the colors. You guys know I'm into neutrals. It also has this beautiful green in it as well, which I really like. So nothing bad to say about this palette. I also feel like the packaging is beautiful on it as well. And then at number 4, we have the Real Her Do Your Squats palette. So this one, again, a beautiful neutral palette. It has a few like earthier tones in it. Like I feel like the browns and the greens in here just kind of have that really deep earthy vibe. So I really love this one. I think it's going to be beautiful even like heading into fall time. And the formula of this is fantastic. This is definitely a brand you want to try if you love like those super smooth eyeshadows. There's no chunky shades in here whatsoever. It's like these are some of the smoothest shadows I've ever tried, both the mattes and the shimmers. So I was very impressed with this formula. Definitely something to check out. And then coming in at number 3, we have the Mini Retro palette from Natasha Denona. I know like the reviews are really mixed on this, but I happen to love it. I love the looks that I get out of it. And I just think these colors are a little bit more unique, like especially the greens. I don't have a lot of greens like this. Most brands do more of the olive green or something that's brighter and more turquoise. And this is somewhere in between that. So I really love these greens a lot. I also love like these dusty pinks that are in here. I just feel like the colors in here are something a little bit different than a lot of the other things I have in my collection, and it's just perfect for this time of year. So I've been using this one a ton. And then at number 2, we have the Sigma Enchanted palette. So this is not a new palette, but I only just got it recently. I think it was back in March. And this palette is stunning. Again, it's something that I don't have a lot of when it comes to these colors. I just feel like this one is really unique and different. You have these beautiful like dusty pink and mauvey shades. You also have some greens, gorgeous duochrome shades that I really like don't have anywhere else in my collection. So I've really had such a fun time playing with this palette. And even though this palette looks really dark and it swatches really dark, when you go to apply especially these deeper shades on your eyes, they're a little bit more sheer. So it's great if you want to build them up, but you can also use these darker shades in your crease, which when I first saw this palette, I was kind of bummed because I thought it really didn't have any crease shades in it, except for maybe like this mid-tone pink right here. So I felt like these were going to be too dark, but they actually work out great as crease colors, and then you can build them up and also use them like to deepen up the crease. So I just think this palette is gorgeous, really having a lot of fun with it. And then coming in at number 1, again, is Sydney Grace. So the Sydney Grace Enduring Love palette. This is something I put off buying for a really long time, even though so many of you guys were telling me you need to try Sydney Grace eyeshadows. I just felt like, how good could they be? I have so many amazing eyeshadows in my collection. How could these be that much better? You know, especially because this palette is a little bit more on the pricey side. I want to say it's 50 something. And, you know, for an unknown brand that I really hadn't tried before, it was hard to spend that kind of money on this palette. But I was so impressed when I tried this palette that I ended up getting a huge palette, hold on, full of singles. Let me just show you how many I've actually purchased since then, because it's a lot. Yeah, I filled up this whole palette with Sydney Grace singles because I love it that much. I mean, these are so good. So if you love a pigmented eyeshadow and you love shimmer shades that you don't need to wet to get the really super intense foiled look, these are for you. I always used to wonder how people on YouTube always had like that really like metallic foiled look on their eyes until I started seeing people using like setting spray to wet it. And then once I tried that, I was like, okay, that makes sense. But it's always a pain in the neck to do that. So I love that you can just apply these straight on your eye and they give you that effect, that almost like wet effect without having to go through the steps of doing that. And the matte shades also have such a nice amount of pigment to them, but yet they're blendable. They're that perfect happy medium between being too blendable or not blendable enough. They're absolutely perfect. So I would say when it comes to Sydney Grace, definitely worth the hype. All right, guys, so that's everything I got a chance to try during March and April. If I missed anything, it's just because I haven't really had a chance to test it out yet, so I don't want to give it a review until I'm absolutely sure, but I can always include it in a follow-up video down the road. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, and also please don't forget to hit the subscribe button right here in the corner of your screen, and I will see you all in my next video. Take care, guys. Bye.